All right. Well, let's start with your why. Like, I ask a lot of people, like, why they compete in HYROX or do any sport that they do. What's the big motivation behind it, and what's that for you?
For high rock specifically, or just sport in general.
Just sport in general.
So I feel maybe I've always done it since I was 12. So it's like it is just a routine now. Like once you've done something for so long, you can't not do it. It's a habit. That habit's already formed.
Mhm.
I just love working out and I love feeling strong. What do they say? Look good, feel good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, just it's my escape, I suppose. And with high rocks, there's an outcome, but there's always along the way. It's the training's varied, isn't it? So it's not.
Mhm.
Yes, you don't get bored of it. There's so many different elements to it. With running, it was you run twice a day, and to progress from this, you have to run more miles, and it was just the same thing. And I always liked gym as well as that for strength conditioning. I've never really had any serious injuries. So I think HYROX has come along and it's both of the two things that I like put together. So yeah, I think it works really well. And I'm just one of those people that like to have a structure, like to have a routine. I like to control what I can control in life. And I feel like you can with HYROX.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking with someone this morning actually about HYROX, and like the other thing that I like about it is the variety, but then also like there's a constant game of like how to pace it, where to push, like how to approach different stations.
Yeah,
There's the variety, but then also just like so many elements to it. Whereas with running, it's kind of like,
just
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Like
yeah, just like,
those paces now. You've hit a plateau. You've got an 800 PB. You've got a 5K PB. You don't PB for 4 years, and then what? You
yeah,
just
yeah,
those little elements of things that you can change, and it doesn't happen fast. Whereas with HYROX, it is you do a race. You analyze your results and then you go, okay, I need to work better on my ski. You come back, you work better on your ski, and then okay, now my sled's down, need to work better on my sled. There's so many things to
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Erg stuff before either, so that's new for me, and quite exciting doing something different.
mhm. Like you've touched on the running, but can you tell us about your sporting background? Like I think you said you've been doing sports since you were 12. So yeah,
uh,
tell us yeah what you've been doing up to this point.
oh gosh, a lot. All of my weekends have just been running in the mud in the cross country or going to a track race somewhere around the country. Since I suppose at primary school, my teacher said, "You're really good. You need to join a club." Because I won by quite a lot. So I started then when I was 12. I was a teenager, so I probably didn't take it as seriously back then. And then high school, my teacher said again, you need to join a club. So with my coach who I train with now, and I've been with him ever since, so I was probably about 14 when I joined with him. So that's Salford Harriers. And from there, I've done track, cross country, because they always say winter miles is summer smiles. So we always do cross country in the winter, and then it makes track stronger. And then I've recently this year started HYROX, but also started fell running for something different. I think I wouldn't say a midlife crisis, maybe a quarter life crisis, but everything in my life was going well. I'm like, right, okay, I need to do something different. Something's missing. So I did a fell race. The first one was a 5K in Bolton. Don't know if you know Rivens and Pike. It was brutal. It was straight up, straight down. I thought, this is easy. I know how to get to the Pike. We've done it when we were kids. We used to run on a Sunday, do a long run there. Um, but it was straight up and down. I even walked at the top. And I was like looking around, is everyone else walking? And they were. But I came second in Great Manchester, so then I qualified to run for the GB trials after that, and I was like, shit, like I need to. I must be good at it, but I need to put some training in now for this. And then went to the lake, so that was a couple of months later, I think, in the Lake District, and that was a 10-mile race. I'd never done anything over 10K at this point. So that was scary. Did it and came 19th in the country. So
Wow.
Fell debut. And then I think it might have been a month later when I made my HYROX debut. Yes, I've done a bit. When I was younger, I did the velodrome as well. I quite enjoyed that. I think I just like sprinting. I love pushing myself. I like running fast and feeling that burn.
Yeah, yeah. So like in terms of the running,
Yeah.
like what level did you get to? What events were you doing?
I've ran for English schools, track, cross country, and then fell. I obviously ran for Greater Manchester, like I said. So that was the GB trials. And then I did do an international race once. So we have what's called the NAL, or the UK Women's League. It's
Mhm.
the Treadmill League of Athletics, and they did an invitational of England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and then the NAL, the UK Women's League. And I was invited from that to do a 5K on the track. And I'd never done a 5K on the track before, but I didn't want to turn down the opportunity. So that was pretty big for me. Although I had tonsillitis that week, and I wasn't very well, but I wanted to do it. So it was live streamed as well. And I came last, but I still went. And then we won the nationals as a team, my club. That was phenomenal. It was a 4-stage road relay.
Mhm.
And it was in Birmingham, Sutton Park, and our club hadn't won as a female team the national since 1996. So all of the oldies, all of the people on the committee were like, "Oh my God, we've done it!" Yeah, that's it. The highest, yeah, I think it's probably English schools. I nearly got an England vest at 3K on the road. So there was a race called Armagh, which is the best 3K race. And they paid for us to go over there just before COVID, and they'd beat, I think, maybe by one person, all of the England team. So that the following year I would have got a vest for that race, but it was COVID. And then
Ah,
everyone was training really hard, and everyone showed up once it was put back on again. So that.
okay, okay. What was your like before you came into HYROX? What was your favoured running distance? Would it have been a 3K, a 5K? What would it have been?
Think I was best at 3K. I love sprinting, so I loved the 800s, but because we'd done winter, I don't think I ever put everything into one distance.
Mhm.
So my my best event probably would have been 3K. And then recently found out I'm not that bad at 10K, but I love sprinting, so I'd still have to go with a 3. With
Okay, so
sprint, it's like flat out 100, 200. I'd say middle distance.
yeah, yeah. So when you sort of discovered HYROX, was that like for the hour sort of time frame? Was that daunting to you? Was that did you not feel that was in your wheelhouse, or was it?
What? Sorry, what do you mean?
Well, like a 3K obviously isn't an hour long, like whereas HYROX is an hour long event. Was that like did it feel like a big jump to do like an hour long event or not?
Okay. No, because our training is lots of intervals. So we probably would already do as our bread and butter. You would probably do 12 400s, you'd do 6 1Ks, you do like death slides type sessions, so mile rep, 1200, 1K. So I feel that's very similar.
Mhm.
So the transition, it hasn't really changed except doing upper body, which I've never done. Um, yeah, so no, it wasn't. I think in my head, maybe a little bit of me thought, will I be able to run for this length of time? But as well, HYROX isn't flat out. So you're not exactly doing a half marathon where you're at, max heart rate the whole time. And then as part of our training, we have to do hour runs, and then on a weekend you do a Sunday long run. So I'm able to do the distance. I could
Mhm.
run forever, but it's, can you run fast forever?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How old are you? Can I ask?
27.
Okay. So you discovered HYROX. How was that? How was your first race? Where was that?
So it was in London, Olympia. So my partner bought me a ticket on the Wednesday, and then I did he was going anyway. And then mine was on the Saturday. So we got the train down on the Friday, didn't get there till 12 o'clock. Looked on the train at what time I was on. I was on at 8:20 in the morning. So it was a very fast turnaround. And at this point, I didn't really know much about HYROX. I said to him, "What order are the events in?" I was just oblivious. I was like, "Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just think of the numbers." And I loved it. Yeah, and it was strange because the lady I did doubles with last weekend, that was her first HYROX as well, was in London in May, and we were in the same wave. So
Oh, wow.
we each other. Well, we seen each other in the warm-up area, and then as we was in the style, I was like, "Oh my god, you're in the same one as me!" So we made our debut at the same time. So that was fun. Yeah, no, really enjoyed it. And then couldn't wait to do another one. But I wasn't super fit at that time. So I was just really excited to get back to my run fitness because I knew what my ability was and then come back to it and see what I could. But the
You
first
mentioned you mentioned earlier you hadn't done like the ergs really before. Like, were all the other stations okay? Like on that day, like had you done things like wall balls and
yeah,
broad jumps?
no. So, um, I'd seen my boyfriend do it, and I practiced maybe twice before of the sleds, the push and pull. Um, but I do think HYROX is get the basics right first, be able to run, be able to lift, have the strength in those muscles that you are about to use, and you can do it. And the technique will just come. Like when I did Milan a couple of months ago, the owner of HYROX came up to me at the end and he was like, "You've got a great engine, but your technique's rubbish." So yeah, my technique's still rubbish, but I'm working on it. It's good to have weaknesses.
Yeah. And you won that event, right? So
Yeah, and I won. So yeah.
you recently got the open women's open world record in London,
Yeah.
which is brilliant. Did you think that was possible on the day?
Mm, no, I never set myself a target that's too optimistic because then if you don't achieve it, you're really disappointed. But I think I knew I was so much fitter than I was in May. I'd done so much more training. I'd been in the gym, so I'm stronger than I've ever been. And in terms of running, I'm probably the fittest I've ever been as well. Um, so no, I didn't think I'd get a record. I wanted a sub 60 because I did 101 in May. Um, and then obviously the wall balls had changed. And I'd worked on my technique, I'd worked on everything. So I knew that I was gonna do a faster time. And then I was very aware that Lucy had done it a couple of weeks before. So I thought, okay, well, the record's now even faster. It's probably not going to happen, but we're just going to go and see what I can do. Yeah, I wouldn't like to say, yeah, I wanted to do it. But there was a little bit of me inside.
Okay. Are there any stations you feel like you still struggle with, or is it just continued improvement that you're looking for now? Is there one station standing out at all or anything like that?
I think I still need to work on everything, um, except farmers carry. Pretty good at that.
Yeah, I've
Just
seen videos of you doing that. It's rapid.
pick it up. So with that one, the idea was my grip's rubbish, my upper body's rubbish. So how do I eliminate that? Just run, and then you're not holding it for as long. I'd probably say my weakness is still upper body, so that would be the pull. Um, that rope, it just never gets easier. It hurts your hands, doesn't it? And ski. I wouldn't say I don't enjoy it. I enjoy them all. I'm enjoying getting better at them all. But yeah, I think my weakness is probably upper body because I've never really done that.
Okay. You said a minute ago that like going into that London race, like you felt like even your running was like the fittest you've ever been. So you don't feel like training HYROX as opposed to training pure running has compromised your running in any way. You still feel like it's actually getting you fitter.
Yeah, strangely, I did think it would. I thought I'd never be able to not run and steer away from it, but no, it's actually worked really well. I think in terms of a physio as well, if you get strong, that's only going to help you on the track. It's only going to help you to be more powerful. And I definitely do feel more powerful. Like I'll turn up to the track and people go, "Oh my God, what exercise are you doing? You look so much more muscular." And then say we're doing a death slide, we get towards the end and we're doing some 400s, 200s. I'm off. My fast twitch are like, they're ready to go. And they're trailing behind. Doing well, some keeping up. But yeah, and I think that's the gym. So actually, no, it's not had a bad effect. It's had a good effect. At first I thought I'm doing less miles, so we've always been told, especially me, I work well off more miles. I
Mm-hmm.
get more miles. But having dropped that and doing more in the gym, I'm fitter than I've ever been.
Good. How many miles are you doing a week at the moment?
Oh, I'd say it varies when you've got competitions because you're flying. Um, Probably say 45, 50. I try and aim around there, but in the past I've done 60, 70 when I was running, just running.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about that a little bit more then. Like in terms of your training, if we sort of break, if we just the pure running training at the moment, how much of that is like zone two easy running? How much is like very fast stuff? How much is like threshold? What's like the breakdown roughly?
Roughly, I'd probably say 8 to 20, just standard in running.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I think we follow old principles that people who now do HYROX are probably coming more into and understanding. Um, like we do a track, we do so that'd be an interval. We do a tempo, we do a long run, and then you do all your miles in between that. We've done that for years, but that's also how you train for HYROX, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose. Yeah. I think there's a new concept, isn't there, of lactic threshold where you do 2 sessions in one day, 2 days a week. So there are some athletes who have started to do that and are really reaping the benefits from it. But that's timing, isn't it? I'm not a full-time athlete. I don't have time to do 2 sessions running when you've got a job. Um, yeah, but maybe something to think about in the future.
Okay.
I see people doing really well off that.
You mentioned the death slides and doing 200s and 400s,
Mm.
and like obviously like doing a high rocks, you're not sprinting, you're not doing like 200, 400 pace, but you still feel like there's a benefit to that sort of training for high rocks, dear.
Oh yeah, I sprint out of that rock zone. I am sprinting. And last run, I'm sprinting. And then every transition. So when I go from the key, I think is just run it all. Don't stop. So once you finish the sled, run to the the next run. Um, I think that the agility of turning around, that's fast twitch. Yeah, I definitely think it helps. Like if you are doing wall balls, you need to be ballistic. You need to still have that the bounce. And if you've not been doing any sprinting and speed sort of training, you've not got that, you're slowing down. And even legs, you need to be able to push. It's power. I think sprinting is power. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely worth it. And if he was in a sprint finish with someone, who, who's winning, me or them?
uh, you just sort of touched on it, like coming out the sleds and then like getting straight back into the running.
Yeah.
Like some runners when they come into high rocks, or everyone when they come into high rocks, can struggle with like the compromise, like going from lunges into a run and everything like that. Have you found it reasonably easy to sort of run fairly strongly straight after something like a sled?
Yeah, I do feel it, but I think I'd use the first run as maybe a bit of a slower one. So say if it's 2 lap course, the first lap I'd maybe be a bit slower, and then the second lap I'll make sure I pick it up, or as soon as the DOMs of or the lactic is flushed out a little bit. But yeah, I don't really think about it. You just think, say if you're doing a 400 session, that's how you feel doing that on the
Mm-hmm.
first out of the 400, you feel the same as if you've just come off lunges. Your quads are burning, but you still keep going. So I think that's good training to do for that. Um, yeah, so I don't see it as compromised. Didn't James Kelly say that it's not compromised running, it's just running? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
run, don't you? You just do your 400 sessions and get used to that lactic feeling. It feels this, it's the same. Yeah.
So it's not something that you're working specifically on in training.
No, I wouldn't say so. No, I just
No.
keep run sessions. I don't, it would, I don't think, I think everyone would laugh at me if I turned up to the track and started to do some burpees mid session and then carried on. I think I keep them separate. So I do my run sessions and then I'll do my stuff in the gym.
I do like I kind of like my observation at least when I first started doing this podcast and everyone started talking about HYROX, there was a lot of talk about compromise running. You've really got to train your compromise running. And I do feel like that is starting to shift now a little bit. And like people like you, and we had Ash Harold on the podcast the other week, who doesn't do any compromise running. And there's like Frederick Zillian, like this running technique coach, and he's just like, you don't need to do it; it's just running, you know. And like you said about JK, so I certainly feel like that perception of like you've got to do it in training to get used to it for HYROX is shifting, at least with some people. So yeah.
Definitely, because you see people coming through now who aren't doing that and they're still doing well. I think there's lots of different ways to train for HYROX, isn't there? And you still get to the top. I think it's what works for you. Knowing your own body and knowing how you respond to training. Some people can't do very much miles, so you might cross train more. You might do more compromised in that aspect. You might do more ski and row. But yeah, just find what works for you and do that.
Yeah. People like it when I ask like what your sort of running times are, like if it a 5K, a 10K sort of time, where do you think you'd be right now for those?
Oh, I think 5K is a little different because it is definitely more speed work that I haven't been doing. I'd say you have to do more split tempos for that. But I've been doing more longer tempos to match the HYROX. I do think HYROX works well with 10K. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm do a 10K soon and I'm hoping to go 33 something. So my PB is 34:17 and I'm hoping to do under that because my tempos are a lot faster than they were then. So
Okay. And obviously you've done like you've got the world record in the Open in London.
yeah.
You won the Milan Pro. Have you got more pro races planned coming up?
Yeah, I'm gonna do Manchester in January.
Okay.
That's the next one.
Have is there a time that you feel like you can achieve?
Oh wow. Don't like to jinx it. I think definitely a couple of minutes faster than what I did in Milan because the rock zone was super long. But you just that is what it is, isn't it? But it just means when you do a course that's shorter, you'll be a lot quicker. So the rock zone in Milan was 5 minutes, I think, and I didn't stop. I've run through that. I didn't even get a drink. So for that to be 5 minutes, that says to me it was quite long. So I'd like to get that down to like 3 minutes. So that's 2 minutes there. And the wall balls were brutal. I was about 2 minutes ahead of Camilla Massa, and then they just because I was at the front, there were so many reps around me saying no rep. I must have done like 40 no reps, and the just that in itself puts you off. So I just dropped the ball, and I was like, shh, you just be quiet. Like everybody was just screaming and shouting at me to say no rep, no rep, no rep, and I was like, oh my god, I can't do it. And then Camilla comes in, and I was 2 minutes ahead, and she's already smashing them out nonstop. So that was a shambles. So I'd like to say that would be another minute. And maybe practicing with a heavier ball. So 3 minutes faster. So maybe like 06, 07.
Okay. I should say for people listening that don't know, you got a 109 in Milan, which was that beat Camilla on the day. and I would agree. It certainly wasn't. It didn't look like a quick event. Like I don't think anyone was putting in quick times. I think Camilla had gone something like 4 or 5 minutes quicker a few weeks before that in
And,
Amsterdam, right? So,
yeah,
um,
so I was
yeah,
disappointed with it. But then when you look at Camilla, it was good to have her there, something to compare to. So when you looked, like you say, at her and she got like 4 or 5 minutes faster a couple of weeks before, um, yeah, then quickly the disappointment turns into next. When's
yeah,
next?
yeah. We've touched on the training, but is there kind of maybe two questions in one, but like, do you use anything for recovery from training? Like, do you do ice baths? Do you do anything like that? And also, I know like you're a physio, right? Are you a physio? Yeah, yeah. So, are there any sort of tips that you think should be considered for recovery or injury prevention when training for HYROX? Anything like that that you think are worth touching on?
Definitely warm up and cool down. I see a lot of people who don't do that. Um, I warm up outside. I try and cool down outside to want to get away from it. But you know, don't run on a treadmill when you're not going to be running on a treadmill on the track. So that's one that I have been noticing with a couple of HYROX people. Running drills, great to warm the muscles up that you're about to use. And then injury prevention would be get some athletic screening. So have a look at what your muscle strength is, go see a physio, use a dynamometer. They'll probably do a couple of tests with you. Just see if you've got any weaknesses anywhere, and then anything specific that you might need to work on. Might be calf raises, might be hamstring bridges, and plyometrics. Don't sleep on plyometrics. You should definitely do those, or you'll end up with tendon issues. And then in terms of ice bath, I would love to say I can do an ice bath, but I can dip my toe in there for 10 seconds. I can't do it. So I just got these calf guards off Amazon that work really well. So it's like an ice pack, but you put it on so the sleeves, but an ice.
Okay.
They're really good because I find my calves take most of the batter in. Um, and then what else? Just protein. Make sure you're getting your protein. Mine's a lot of pre-event, so make sure you do everything right pre-event. You don't feel as bad post-event. So a week before, make sure you bank your sleep. Try and sleep a little bit more every night. If you have any sort of stress in your life, try and mitigate that as much as you can the week before the race, because mentally that stress drains you. So then by the time you've done the event, and then that's physical stress, you're drained after it if you're taking on so much. So yeah, I'd probably say a week before. Think about it then.
Mm-hmm.
After, it's not as hard.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh, you just uh, briefly mentioned like the running on the treadmill as opposed to like on the track or whatever it is. And I think you were referring to like before, like the warm up for an event, right? Do you how about in training though? Do you try and avoid the treadmill? Do you still use the treadmill?
Not really, no. I only used the treadmill the other week because where my partner lives in Hebden Bridge, it was flooding, so we couldn't run outside. So it has to be a disaster. No, I don't really like. I just don't like it. I don't know if maybe because I ran outside for so long that my muscles have adapted to changing direction and running on undulating surfaces. So when I run on the treadmill, I actually get injured. So my ITB hurts, my perineals hurt. So yeah, I just try and avoid it and try and go off road as much as possible. Um, so there's a running calculator that you can use. My coach made it with someone else, and basically it will show your risk of injury if you score more than a 5 on it. Like, do you run off road more than twice a week? Do you wear carbons more than twice a week? Do you have enough protein? Do you have enough sleep? Do you drink alcohol? Like all these different things. Um, yeah, I went off on a tangent there, but that definitely will help with injury prevention, and running off road helps. So I live in the country, so I've got access to the hills.
You mentioned carbons, which has prompted a question in my head that everyone likes to know about footwear and what footwear you use for HYROX. What are you using?
I'm using my Nike Carbons.
Oh, yeah. So the Nike, what ones?
Um, the I can't remember what they're called.
Alpha Flies?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And what do you train in?
Depends if it's a steady run, I'll just use um Invincible threes, Nike Invincible threes. If it's a tempo, I do use my New Balance Carbons because I was gifted them at a race and I feel like I still need to put them to use. I have a race day shoe, which is my Nike ones, and then I use the New Balance ones in training.
Right.
And track. So we back in the day we used to use spikes on the track all the time, but then obviously research came out that you're more at risk of injury and people were getting Achilles tendon problems. So we just started using our carbons. So we do use our carbons on the track, on the tempo, and that's it.
Okay. Okay. And you found the Alpha Flies are right on the like pushing the sled. There's no stability issues, anything like that. Presumably you're okay, but
Do you know what? My feet do move around in them, and I got blisters the first time I used them. I think because I was sweating so much. This was on the pro actually. I was sweating so much on the sled push. I could feel the sweat going into my socks. I got blisters on my arches. Yeah, probably not the best in terms of slip, but they've all I've got for the moment, so I may as well use them. They've still got miles in them.
okay. Yeah. All right. Another question I like to ask about is like mindset, like where your head goes when it's in the depths of a tough race, like in the middle of a HYROX when things are getting really hard. What do you think about? What do you focus on?
That is a good one. If it's abroad, I'd think to myself, then I've paid to be here, so I need to make it worth it. Um, I just tell myself, like, you don't have to do this. You get to do this. Recently, my partner was in a car accident with his little brother, and his brother lost half his arm.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so it makes you think, like he could do HYROX because they've got the adaptive category now, haven't they? Um, but I just think to myself, like, if that was me and running keeps me sane, exercise keeps me sane, if I couldn't do that, I'd be mental. Um, so yeah, I think about him and the fact that I don't have to do it, I get to do it. And then I just think of all these motivational things like only diamonds are made under pressure and different quotes. Just if you let the little chimp talk, it'll keep talking and it'll just keep planting seeds. So you've got to try not to let it talk to you.
I should have, when we were talking about London, I should have asked about your doubles as well. Like you've got the age group world record there.
Yeah, that's cool. We in May, we both made our debut in May, and it was her that we did it with, so that was fun.
Sorry, what's her name?
Charlotte Taylor Green.
Okay. Did you have any like specific tactics or anything like that for the race? Like,
We never trained together. We never met up. The runs was just send it, and she'd try and keep up. She isn't as run fit, so the idea was I would do a bit more on those stations that would be, leg demanding. So like the sled push. And she said that she has better at ergs, so she did a little more on the ski. And then we just sort of went with it's almost like we just knew, and if she was struggling, she'd stop and then I'd be ready to go. So you're just ready. So she did a little bit more on the ski. Sled, I did 2 lengths, she did one, and then I did the next one because she was tired on the run then. So I thought, well, if I just tie myself out on the sled, then she'd keep up on the run. And then we took the pull half length each because that is brutal. And then farms carry, I tried to run as much as I can until I put it down, and then she did a bit. It's funny. She's like, I thought this was a rest in this video, and she's running behind. Yeah, and then pretty much half and half after that. I think I just get really excited. So on the wall balls, I'm just like getting carried away. I'm like, oh, I need to pass this on. I need to let because after training for pro, that ball felt so light. I was just banging it up there.
Yeah, it's a big difference. That like 2 kilograms or whatever it is, it feels crazy different. Yeah.
The first time I did it and I looked back at that 4 kg and I thought, wow, this is quite heavy. And now after doing 6, the 4, it feels like
Yeah, yeah. Um, a few questions I like to finish up on are well, the first one is what's been your best ever sporting experience like in your lifetime?
oh wow. Best ever. I feel like once you achieve one, you're always thinking of the next one. So one's amazing, and then you're like, okay, now what else can I do? And then that's even bigger, and then you do something else, and that's even bigger. Um, I think I don't maybe in terms of competing, the national road relays was amazing because our club's such a good community. Everyone gets together for that, and we'll even go down on a coach, and like all the men are like getting pissed after and stuff like banter and vibes. So winning that was amazing because I've ran for in the senior section since I was maybe 17, 18. So to then achieve something with them was so good. Maybe in terms of training, I would say training at altitude in Font Romeu. We went and stayed in a chalet of 12 people. So we were all eating together, just running, going to the gym. Um, yeah, that I definitely say you have to experience that with your mates.
Do you try and train at altitude regularly? Is that like part of your routine? Or?
Was the first time that I'd ever done it, and we'd done it together as a club. They did go again this year, but I was in America, so I didn't go. But I would love to do it again. We've always said we'd love to go to somewhere like that, or maybe Kenya, because my coach used to physio for the GB team, physio Mo Farah, so he's been on all these camps. So it was just waiting for him and to have time away from his family. His daughter's run as well, but he's not being paid for it. It's voluntary in athletics. So yeah, we couldn't force him to come, but we needed someone to guide us. So yeah, every time we're like, right, you tell us when and we're going.
How about your toughest ever sporting experience? Like what's been particularly tough?
Tough. I'd say that the GB trial fell race was tough because that was the longest race I've ever done, 10 miles up the hills. And because I like to push myself and put myself into an uncomfortable place, I didn't want to stop. I was like, you can't walk, you can't walk. The top guys don't walk. But I had to walk because my cords wouldn't take me any further. Really hard. And I think mentally, just before that as well, I had a mini breakdown. I was just like, I can't do it, I can't do it. This is really far. But then once you were on the start line and you went for it, and then bit of downhill, get some speed up, and yeah, you're fine.
Cool. What's the best piece of advice someone's given you or you've discovered while training for HYROX?
Oh, maybe not so much HYROX, but it could apply. My coach used to always say to me, you train, you don't compete well when you're stressed. You compete your best when you're not stressed. So I think that could be anything in life. So if you've got everything, like I said earlier, if that week building up to the race, you can mitigate stress as much as possible. You enjoy it more. You tend to race better. So I would probably say, like, it's not the end of the world. Just enjoy it. Just go, like, you get to do this. You probably still are 1% of the population who works out. So just move more. And then maybe in terms of physio, I would tell people to just move more because your body releases its own opioids and happy pills. So by moving, you're then going to get rid of that stress anyway. The sadness that you felt beforehand is going to have gone away. Yeah. So just move more and try and mitigate your stress.
Okay, good. I like it. And then last one, and to be honest, the same answer might apply. But if there's one piece of advice or like one idea that you want to plant in the mind of everyone listening, and it could be anything, what would it be?
One idea.
Yeah, yeah. Or piece of advice or anything.
Probably that. Don't take life too seriously. Just move more. Um, yeah, like you're not here for a long time. Yeah, probably that. Movement is
Yeah.
happy.
Okay. Love it. Love it. All right. Amazing. Thank you for this. This has been brilliant. So Manchester's next, is it for you?
Yeah, when's your one?
The same, yeah. Manchester. I'm doing pro doubles in Manchester. Yeah.
Pro Tools. Who's
Yeah. It's an old schoolmate actually. I've known him like all my life, so yeah, I'll be doing that with him on the Saturday night. I think it is. Looking
yeah.
forward to it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, if people want to follow you, find out more about you, where should they go? Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, I would say. Sinead Ben X.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, thank you for this, and I'll see you in Manchester.
Yeah, I'll see you there.